greater risk, and resistance to change as their four main reasons for not engaging. So, aren't you concerned about these things? And we've got a lot of CEOs in the audience today. Is there any advice that you can share to help them overcome some of these concerns?
No, I mean personally, no, I'm not concerned about it at all, because there's actually some other research that's been done recently that says that that buyers have greater are developing greater trust in organizations where the senior leadership do have a presence on social media, because just along with everything that's been said here, it's all about, you know, transparency and relationship building. And I mean, nowadays, if you don't have that kind of presence, it's almost becoming a negative by not having the presence, because you're starting to wonder, well, why does that, you know, why does that CEO, why does that senior person not want to engage with the rest of the world on? Why don't they have a presence? Don't they have anything interesting to say? I mean, there's also research to say that CEOs and senior leaders that blog on a regular basis actually, again, can build greater levels of trust in buyers in that organization, because they start to feel like they, you know, have some kind of relationship with the organization, that they understand you better. So I think it's absolutely critical. I think that people are missing the boat in a big way by not developing that. And it is that whole, it gets back to that whole idea of building a personal brand. I mean, because that's what you've got to do nowadays. You've got to build an online brand, because that's how people are viewing it. There's a tendency to think, you know, especially as a salesperson, right, that when you engage with a potential buyer, you assume that they, correctly, that they are going to research your organization, right? You know, they're going to look into your product and look into your organization. But what a lot of sellers miss is the fact that nowadays they're not just researching the organization, they're going to research you as well. So if they go and research you online, and up pops a load of great information, they see that you belong to interesting groups, that you maybe have blogged about issues in their industry, that people seem to you know, follow, take note of what you say. There's a credentialing process that takes place. So you've now just accelerated the credentialing process that once upon a time you may have had to do over a period of time and meetings and all of that. And vice versa, if they go online and find out nothing about you, you've no presence, you don't even have your picture on LinkedIn, you know, I mean, unfortunately, that's the truth now. If you pop up, you know, picture on LinkedIn, you're like, oh, why they have no picture. But it's having the opposite effect. And I think the same goes, you know, for sales. I think you have to develop that online presence, online brand, because again, I mean, I go back to what I said at the very beginning, that I wouldn't think of this as, you know, sales 2.0. Think of it as buyer 2.0. I mean, you've got to facilitate how your buyer wants their information and how your buyer wants to go through their process. And so part of that is they want to understand who you are and how you think and what your, you know, and what your views are on things that are important to them. So if you don't have that, and if you don't have that presence and you're not giving it to them the way they want it, which is often nowadays is through social media, through online presence, through personal brand, you know, then you're crossing over to where you're sort of saying to the buyer, which is never a very good strategy, is I don't actually care how you, you know, what you feel. I don't care how you want to do things. I'm going to do them the way I want to do them, and you're going to deal with it. And you know, traditionally that hasn't been a particularly successful approach to sales, and I wouldn't advocate it now.
Thank you. Please, Marco.
Yeah. I think that a CEO has at least three types of buyer, right? There's the buyer who actually buys their product or service. There's the buyer who is the shareholder or the analyst in the city, depending on the type of organisation. There's the buyer who's inside the organisation, i.e. the employee. And you need to be relevant to all three. So I sit on an advisory board for a large travel group in Europe. And the CEO there has just done the largest single sort of capital placement, about 1.6 billion UK pounds recently. And one of the things that was cited by the analysts was, you know, that they felt that she was relevant to the business, that they trusted in her strategy and her vision because it was clear and articulated, And it was very transparent. It was shared through both social media internally, it was shared with social media with analysts, and it was shared with end customers, okay, on social media. Now, okay, that's a particular example of one CEO who's actually very out there, very engaged, very sort of digitally active. But it actually had a fundamental impact on the perception in the market and helped her save and turn around her company. So I think back to John's point, why wouldn't you be on LinkedIn? I mean, what are you hiding, right? It's not to say that you have to take pictures of every single meal that you have and every single step you can take, right? That's not about that. And I think you don't have to be on Twitter and Facebook and everything else, but I think as business people, the very least you should do is have a look at why, you know, what your LinkedIn strategy is and what updates you want to send and what provide a, you know, for most of us, it's about digital footprints, right? So some of this room have a larger digital footprint than others. We might intend to do that, right? Some of us, it might be unfortunate because we didn't intend to do that and we've done something that's been caught up and it's been followed through. But I think that one of the things as leaders, as sales leaders, as marketing leaders, or as CEOs, you need to have your own sort of personal digital strategy. You need to understand, and it needs to be deliberate. It can't be by accident. If you choose not to do something, that's absolutely fine. But do it out of choice and do it consciously, not because you don't know or you haven't listened or you haven't understood. And if you don't understand some of the things that your organisation are coming to you with, go find out. Actually, it's your job to find out. It's your job to be relevant. And I don't think there's any organisation, and I talk to governments, I work with NGOs, I talk to B2C, I work with B2B, I don't think there's any organisation, type of organisation I'm not having a conversation with that contains the word digital. Right? So everybody is struggling with how do I make digital, whatever that word means, relevant to my organisation. Well, it starts with you.